Slack channel.
Oh.
Oh. Yeah. I found that at my dad's house.
Nice.
That's good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do think I have a stash of those somewhere.
I only had the one.
Oh, yeah?
But I have a bunch of the Working Designs pins. I have
Nice.
Lunar, and then I have a Silhouette Mirage.
Oh, man.
As well. Yeah. I found my Metal Gear Solid 1 dog tags.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, I still have those.
Yeah.
I don't know if I had those.
I have a bunch of things. I found like this custom Robo little... I don't even know what's in here.
Ah.
It's from Space World 99.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I definitely don't have that.
Yeah. But anyway, hey, we're in the after show now. So,
oh my gosh.
Welcome to it. We're already live on the internet.
Are we?
Thank you very much for supporting the podcast at patreon.com/P1podcast. Today, my dear friends, we are going to be talking about the movie Starship Troopers, the 1997 Paul Verhoeven flick based upon the Robert Heinlein book of the same name,
but not of the same plot.
Not of the same plot.
Story.
Right. Based upon loosely, perhaps.
Paul Verhoeven famously said that he stopped reading the novel because he thought it was so terrible.
As boring.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so he made a he made his own movie
instead.
kind of inspired by it.
He was in a book club, started reading the book, was bored by it, and said, "Is there a movie of this?" No, I'll make one.
I'll make one.
Yes. And of course, we started talking about Starship Troopers because the game from Arrowhead, Helldivers 2, is very much inspired by Starship Troopers. I think Helldivers 1 is also very much inspired by Starship Troopers, and that came out a long time ago on the Vita and came out on PlayStation 4 as well. I think it's even a PS3 game.
Oh yeah.
But they made a sequel to it, and it's out on PlayStation 5 now and PC, and it has kind of taken over. It's kind of become a hit
real quick
on Steam and PS5.
Oppenheimer just got Best Picture.
Nice.
I still well deserved that.
Of course, depending on when you're listening to this, whether it's because you're a patron or because this is in the free feed.
Yeah, you knew this already.
2 years ago, this may have happened.
2 years ago, Oppenheimer won Best Film.
Yeah. But we're not talking about the best picture. We're talking about Starship Troopers.
The even better picture.
Well, yeah. Famously on this show, I have professed my dislike for Starship Troopers because when I originally saw the film, I was expecting something different than what it was. I was expecting
for what it's worth, the film was marketed as something that it really wasn't.
But that's right. It was marketed as a straight up serious action flick.
Yeah.
And it is very clearly not that. And so I don't know if you remember this. Phil, were you at Sendai at this time in 1997, or were you in St. Louis? Was this after you were departed?
Well, I was never in St. Louis.
Were you in Missouri?
I was in Missouri. Yeah. I was in Columbia. Oh,
right.
Columbia? Columbus?
One of those.
I was at Mizzou. Well, I wasn't at Mizzou. But I was living with Dana, who was at Mizzou.
Yeah. And when you worked at a video game magazine office like Sendai at the time, and movies came out like the Star Wars trilogy re-releases or the Lord of the Rings movies, oftentimes they would get tickets for the entire office to go to a movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Well, that was the case with Starship Troopers as well. Well, this was one of the movies that. So I never actually paid to see Starship Troopers. I guess
in 97, I was still in Illinois.
You were okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So saw it with a bunch of pals from work. and I didn't like it. I thought it was a terrible movie.
Same.
Because it was too hokey
Yeah.
and cheesy, and it wasn't a serious action movie. It wasn't an action movie. But that was not what it was trying to be.
That is true.
This is a satire of propaganda and fascism and all that good stuff. And at the time, I don't think I appreciate. At the time, I know I didn't appreciate that stuff.
Right.
I
think it needs to be said that at the time, most people didn't appreciate that stuff.
That is true.
And apparently it didn't do that well at the box office,
Right.
apparently. And certainly not critically.
No.
Right.
And it was panned.
Yeah.
Yeah. It had good special effects.
Yeah, it had great
that
special
was
effects.
that
I
was a
remember
selling
the
point.
trailer. One of the reasons why I wanted to see it is because of the big battles with bugs
like,
and
hundreds and thousands of bugs. Yeah.
Yeah. It just looked cool.
Yeah. But yeah, it's it was pretty critically panned back in the day.
Yeah.
And I feel like when you hear that's not what it was trying to be, I would say at the time, I don't think anyone knew that until Paul Verhoeven said it.
Yeah.
I disagree because I sure knew because this movie ain't subtle. It is not subtle.
No, it's not subtle. You're absolutely right. It's not. But
so when you went and watched it in the theater,
yes,
what message did you take away from it?
That it was a satire on fascism. That it was a satire on the propaganda stuff. I mean, again,
I did not know that
at the time. I loved RoboCop.
Mm-hmm.
RoboCop very clearly satirical.
Very clearly,
which also, do people take that as satirical?
Yes, I mean,
I think it was much more clear in RoboCop than it was in Starship Troopers.
I mean, I have certainly met and interacted, even in recent years, with people who don't understand that RoboCop is satire.
I assume that people don't understand.
There are definitely people, and not even dumb people that I've talked to, who are just like, "Oh, RoboCop, that's just like that cheesy action movie. That's just some dumb schlock." And it's just like, "Oh, no, come on."
Well, okay, I think so. Here's the thing, and here's the issue that I have with the discussion around Starship Troopers.
Okay,
because I did rewatch it for this.
Yeah,
I still think it's a terrible movie.
That's wild.
But
okay,
the issue that I have with the discussion around it is that for some reason, when you say I think it's a terrible movie, it's because you didn't get it. Just because it's meant to be satire doesn't mean it's good satire. You know what I mean? Like I would draw a comparison to say like The Room as an example. Sure, call it a black comedy all you want. Now with Tommy Wiseau, that was in retrospect, and that was after the movie was a failure. I don't think there's any honesty in that.
Not at all
label, but it's like you're calling it that, and it's somehow supposed to excuse that it's terrible, right? I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that it's a bad movie because I don't get it.
Right.
I think it's a bad movie because I think it's a bad movie. I get that it's supposed to be satire. I just think it's not very good at it. That's my whole position on that.
Okay.
It was marketed as just a straight action flick.
Yes, it was.
And I think that did it a major disservice. I think that a big part of understanding the satirical aspect of it is understanding Heinlein's book and what it was, because it's very, well, I'm going to say famously, it's not famously, and that's kind of my point. but the book has been labeled a fascist book.
Yeah.
Right.
It's very militaristic. It's very preachy in the 1950s about, hey, weird, how terrible kids are and how soft they are and how we're raising a terrible generation of people. It's weird because you never hear older generations say that about the younger generations ever. But,
Right.
and so Verhoeven went on record saying that that's what this book is. And Verhoeven, of course, came from, he lived through a Nazi occupation of his country.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, he's lived it, and he's very anti-fascist. And so it's like, well, I'm going to put the screws to this and give this an anti-fascist message.
Mm-hmm.
And I get all that, but I think that it would be ridiculous to assume that most people had any clue or had experienced or read the book that it was based on.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I don't think, unless you told them, they didn't even know it was based on a literary work. And I think that that's kind of where the movie as a satire fails. That's my feeling on it. And when you compare it to RoboCop,
right,
and I mean, yes, I get it. Like you watch like the propaganda pieces in the movie, obviously, when you've got the little kid stepping out going, I'm doing my part and all that. Like, obviously that's Verhoeven satire,
right,
much in the vein of
these soldiers
RoboCop.
giving the kids
right.
bullets to play
they're
with.
all standing there stomping on roaches and stuff like that.
Right.
Like, I get that. I absolutely understand that. But like, I think with RoboCop, like the difference is that it's still like the whole point of the corporate takeover of the public service and all that sort of thing in RoboCop. They name it and they address it in his character. He's a massively conflicted character. He's been done wrong in the name of corporate greed,
right,
and progress, to the point that he even vocalizes it near the end of the movie, where with sarcasm, when his partner, whose name is escaping me right now, Lewis, when she gets
Officer
shot,
Ann Lewis,
and she says, "I'm a mess."
Yeah.
And he makes that sarcastic comment where he says, "They'll fix you. They fix everything."
Yes.
Right. And still at the end of that movie, he comes in and he shoots the villain, and the head of OCP, what's your name, son? Like, so you still get the message of corporate America, like, they're not going to pay for this. One guy paid for it, but the head of the company's still alive, and he gets to have the funny line at the end of the movie, and the message is really clear, but still you're seeing the negative consequence of that in RoboCop, in the main character. In Starship Troopers, you don't see that. They all walk away arm in arm at the end of the movie, and everything's cool. And I think that's where it falls apart. You don't see if you look at it if you try to ground it in reality, yes, there's like a very negative message there, but none of the characters suffer the consequence of it at all.
Yeah, actually,
That's what gets me about the movie.
I'm gonna walk in and say I didn't even get the negative message when I saw it in 1997. I don't even think I necessarily get the negative message now, even though I know it's supposed
to exist.
But because
that's where I get
they
it.
walk away arm in arm and also ready to fight more bugs, they've learned nothing.
Right.
There's been no advancement in any of these characters.
The
Even
thing
when you
is-
have Neil Patrick Harris saying that the brain bug is scared or whatever, they are happy about that. There's no search for truth. There's no discovery that they've been lied to. And even one of the scenes that I thought was so interesting is, okay, when Denise Richards and God, I forget
Xander.
Xander, when they're on the ship and the what's her name, commander, was like, somebody made a big mistake, and all the ships up there are like crashing into each other and messing around. They just like laugh that off, like, oh, like, we don't have to get to the bottom of that, like, why all this happened. Like, it's fine, and we're gonna be here next week, and we're gonna get those bugs. Like, Yeah,
The
there's no
thing about-
advancement. There's no lesson. There's
The thing
no
about
nothing.
there is a lesson though,
What's the
and
lesson?
the lesson. No, the lesson comes from
lesson is Denise Richards is a better pilot than the other ships. And that's
the lesson comes
Yeah.
from we are introduced to this world, and the world we are introduced to is a heavily militaristic
Yeah.
society where the only people who have any rights whatsoever
Mhm.
are people who serve in the military.
Yeah.
That's the whole Johnny's whole thing is
Or
that
you have to be rich.
he comes from a rich family.
Yeah.
And he decides to reject that because he wants to have those rights as a citizen. So he
No, he wants
No,
to
he wants-
follow.
He wants the
Well,
girl.
He wants the girl. That's the only reason.
but
That's what makes him.
he
a
sells it
tragic
to his parents as
character.
Yeah.
I want to do my part.
Yes. He doesn't say he wants his rights as a citizen, though, does he? To them, because
don't
technically,
Yeah,
if they're in the upper
he
class, he would already
vocalizes it
have
at
that.
some point.
Yeah. He's that's how because that's how he sells it to his dad is.
Yeah,
Yeah, but his dad never buys it.
But it doesn't
either
matter if
way,
his dad
he
buys
still
it.
says it. Whether he,
That's his reason for doing it.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the reason he gives.
his
Yeah.
parents see through it.
Yeah.
'Cause his dad
Yeah.
sees through it and says that he's following that silly girl.
Yes.
And the message of Starship Troopers is that fascism is bad. We all know that.
Only to the viewer. Yeah.
Yes.
To the
We are the
because
viewer.
Nobody,
Yes.
I guess,
nobody in the film
like-
has figured that out.
See, again, I guess I feel like if we'd only seen, because you make a really good point, the citizenship thing, right?
Yeah.
But the only non-citizens we see
Right.
outside of the school kids,
Right.
right? So I mean, and most of them go, the characters we care about join the military, the characters we follow or join the military.
Yeah.
The only non-citizens we see are his two rich parents. Hey, look, life doesn't look too bad for them.
No.
And see, that's
Until
to
they
me,
are
that's
incinerated.
okay. Yeah,
Well,
but they're
here's
incinerated.
my
But,
other question
I'm
about that.
assuming a bunch of citizens were incinerated too. That's not a like, oh, I'm a citizen, so I survived kind of thing. Or maybe it was. You know what? Show us that. That's what I'm saying. Where the movie fails in
Yeah.
The
that.
thing
Actually,
the
I have a
non-citizens
question.
that we
I have a-
see,
Oh, boy.
they're rich. They're happy.
I'm going to circle back to Buenos Aires first, because this made me think about this. I think I read something online about this. Is the Buenos Aires attack real? And
That's a really interesting theory.
are the people that he is talking to on the AT&T phone? By the way, the only product placement that I saw in the movie is the AT&T video call. Was that real? Because if you'll remember, like the last interaction he has with his dad is very contentious. And then when they're talking on the phone, his dad is like, "Where's your uniform? I want to see your uniform." When before he was all like, hate the military, like you are not going to do this. Like it's a very like odd change of tone. And were they like actors that were hired to play his parents? And make
Oh, I
this
don't know
video
about that.
I think that
was it somehow faked or
I think
something?
I think it was more of a turn of like, for the sake of maintaining the relationship with his son.
Yeah.
It's like he that's
Or
the way
was
I
it-
read it. He made his
Yeah.
point. He doesn't agree with it, but
Right.
it's happened now.
Or was it
So
now,
he's supporting him.
now that all of the troops that are on these ships are maybe questioning their service because they've just gone through a loss?
Sure.
We have to make sure that they stick with the program. So we're going to make them think that Earth has been attacked and all of the people you've loved are dead.
Well, Earth,
And
Earth
so you're
has
just
been
going
attacked.
to fight what?
Well,
They-
that's a sorry. Go ahead.
No, the kind of theory. It's certainly not stated in the movie,
Yeah.
but there is a theory that the Buenos Aires attack is a false flag.
Yeah.
That the Earth government essentially dropped its own asteroid
Right.
because and they show at the beginning of the movie the bug planet, complete opposite side of the galaxy.
Yeah.
The reality of the bugs being able to launch an asteroid
Seems
with
a little
any
bit
sort of
strenuous.
precision
Yeah.
would be highly improbable, not to mention the amount of time it would take for
I mean, Not to mention the bugs that fire lasers out of their butts don't seem to hit all. I mean, they only hit some ships because a lot of those bugs were firing
Well, that's just
things
it,
into,
right? And
into
that's
space.
that's another kind of adding fuel to that fire of
Yeah.
did the Earth government
I think
attack
that's
the
I think that's
planet
great.
Yeah.
Like
in
that's it.
order to
Yeah. And
justify an invasion of this planet?
Right.
and see, that's to me, that's the thing, is because they don't even hint at that possibility in any way in the movie.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a great theory and it's really fascinating. And I think even someone showing some sort of doubt somewhere, even if
Yeah.
it was his parents,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
saying it would have done so much for the movie. Because right now that theory is great, but it's a theory that's been built in retrospect,
Yeah.
Right.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't go so far as to say his parents were actors, but I do think that the theory that even all the meteorites being thrown at the Earth, who knows how many of them actually exist,
Right.
right? I mean, is that something that the government has made up? And absolutely, it could be that they destroyed Buenos Aires
Yeah.
as a rallying cry, as a false flag to finally get people riled up enough to invade the planet. And
Right.
there might be, and I think actually the book might even hint at this, but I'm not sure because I've never read it. I'm only going off of notes that I've read online in preparation for this, because there were actually two alien races in the book. Or maybe that one was androids or something, I forget. But either way, like, could it be that it's just a resource hunt by the humans,
Yeah.
or by the human government,
No.
and they've had to paint these creatures as malicious?
Is this
Right.
a
To
we're the
justify it.
baddies situation?
Right.
See,
And
and
that
that's-
We're the baddies.
if there was even a
Nobody
hint of that in the
questions it
film,
though.
even a
Nobody
hint
is
of it,
asking that.
The
the fact-
hint of that is at the end when Doogie Howser walks out in a damn Nazi uniform. That's not
No.
a hint. That is
No, it's not. No one's
Verhoeven
saying
saying we are the bad guys.
No, but he
And
doesn't think that.
what I'm saying is, as
Nobody
stupid
in
as
the
this is
film-
going to
It
sound,
it
it's
doesn't
too
matter
subtle.
if Doogie Howser realizes it. What matters is that the audience realizes that.
But
So
what I'm
when one
saying
of
is
the
the audience
main
didn't.
characters is in a
Well-
damn Nazi uniform,
Yeah.
that's when the audience
Here's-
says, maybe
Hold on.
we're the
hold on a
bad
second.
guys.
Let's pause on that because I
This
want to.
is what I'm
I want to
confused
amplify.
about.
I want to amplify what you're saying here because
Okay.
I don't think a lot of people would get that. I certainly didn't get it. I don't get it now, really.
It's a
I mean, I
Nazi
know,
uniform.
right? But
What don't you get?
we see a lot of sort of fascist thinking in the US, like nationalism, patriotism, etc. Like, and people don't think they are doing wrong or whatever. And this movie, I think, isn't painting. I mean, yes, me, you, Greg, watching it may think, "Oh man, fascism is bad," but for a lot of the population, they look at it like, "Yes, let's kill those bugs. The only good bug is a dead bug."
Starship Troopers.
And they've made 3 sequels to this movie that I'm not sure have
Well,
anything
yeah, but I
to
mean,
You
they're-
do.
you don't
You make
count
garbage
those. Those are
sequels. You
not.
make garbage sequels. You whatever.
Well,
I mean,
know.
I loved Bloodsport. That movie sucked. They made a bunch of sequels to that movie too. That doesn't really mean anything for the original movie, but
Starship Troopers is a wildly cynical, angry movie. It is a cynical,
I don't get that at
cynical
all.
movie.
I
It
actually
does
don't
not
get
have
that.
faith in humanity. It does not have faith in government. It does not have faith that we as a species can do better. That is why the movie ends with these kids
Three
who
of them
got
walking off
sucked
into the
into a
sunset.
military grinder, walking off smiling.
Yeah.
That's why it ends with Doogie Howser in a Nazi uniform and everyone cheering at the intelligent bug that they have captured and have terrified after they invaded its homeworld. It is an angry, cynical movie.
I don't agree.
See that
I agree. I think it all
yeah.
comes down to who is watching the movie and taking in the content. You, me, Greg may take it as that somebody who doesn't think like we are not. They're not going to get that message from from this. I don't think they're going to be like,
A
yes,
lack of
smash
media
the bugs.
literacy does not. This is
I
what
know.
confuses me. It's like,
I felt
yes, we
like
understand it.
I felt like Rico ready to walk out because he led to the death of one of the soldiers. Like I thought
Right.
that was he's dealing with consequences.
Right.
He doesn't deal with consequences really at any
Well,
other time unless he's
my
chasing
my
karma.
thing with his character, and I think it was a massively missed opportunity, is that the whole idea, Rico is a tragic character because
Yeah.
basically his humanity dies by the end
Yeah.
of the movie. I
Right.
get that, right? And what you just described is exactly how that's portrayed. He went into the military for the wrong reasons. And
Yeah.
he's stuck into a war he doesn't want to be in, or he shouldn't be in.
Right.
When he takes the blame for getting his fellow recruit killed, and he's ready to leave, and that shows a lot of empathy on his part. But then all of a sudden he turns into this after he has his first mission, and Ratchik, how do you say his name?
Yeah.
Razchek. Anyway, Michael Ironside.
Yeah.
He's killed, and he takes over the unit, you
Yeah.
know. And I mean, you look at it, it's like, yeah, okay, so he definitely had a journey for sure.
Right.
His humanity's gone, and he's just a military robot by the end of
Right.
the movie. I get it, but it doesn't come across as a consequence. It's
No.
too subtle.
Correct.
It's just way too
Again.
subtle. He's not in a worse place that's easy to see by the end of the movie. He's walking
No.
away smiling.
I mean, like I said, it is
They were victorious over the bugs.
Yeah.
It's treated as a victory. It's not treated as a
But again, he walks out in a Nazi uniform.
Well, no, he doesn't.
He doesn't.
Rico
I
doesn't.
mean,
Doogie Howser, you know who I meant.
yeah, but
The character
I just
walks
think
out.
honestly, but see, I guess that goes back to the other element of it, where the movie is so poorly acted. It's so
it is poorly
and
acted.
I have heard the arguments about how that's on purpose. I don't buy that for a second. Personally, they've just got shitty. I don't know. I can't speak to why Neil Patrick Harris is so bad in it, but they've got shitty actors. They hired shitty actors. But
anyway, my thought here is that Verhoeven is not a great director of
that. I think is another thing that I think we gloss over a lot. Verhoeven, I think, has way more misses than hits.
Hollow Man.
Have you seen
Hollow Man?
But
Terrible movie.
But
the
ham-fisted Nazi uniform, it just comes off as, to me, it always came off as another piece of a terrible movie.
And now it's ham-fisted. It's simultaneously too subtle and ham-fisted.
It's ham-fisted in that
it's too subtle for the audience to get, but boy,
it looks like a low-budget television show.
No,
and the message gets lost.
You don't trot out a hero at the end of the movie in a Nazi uniform.
A hero, by the way, who's been completely missing from the movie for 90% of the runtime.
Yeah, well, because he's off in the science division. He's researching.
See, I'm just saying. If the whole message is hung on the fact that he's wearing a Nazi-looking uniform,
yes,
it's not enough.
Are we saying that Doogie Howser is the hero?
Yeah, he's painted as a hero. He's the one who puts his hand on the vagina bug and says it's scared.
Yeah, he's the one who communicates. He's the one who figures out that we are defeating them.
But he's not a hero.
No, he's not. That's the satire.
Oh,
it's oh my gosh. You get it, but you refuse to get that you get it.
No,
that's what confuses
that's the point
me.
I was making before. I do get it. And that's what's made me so sick of hearing that I don't get it, because I don't like the movie. I don't like the movie because I get it, and I think it's a bad movie. Not, I don't like the movie because I don't get the movie. I get it.
Yeah.
It is definitely more subtle.
But I don't think it's, I think you need to admit that most people
Yeah.
in 1997 did not get it.
Oh no, they didn't.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Which
would
I think-
imagine
which
that
I think
most people,
speaks
even
to-
if watched now, wouldn't get it.
Which I think speaks to the fact, again, that I think it's poorly done. If most people didn't get it, then you failed.
I don't agree with that.
I know you don't, but
I
I'm
do
just
agree with
saying that's always been my position on it.
Yeah.
Is again, and through the years, it's been so frustrating. Anytime it comes up, if you're the one who decides to say, "I didn't like that movie," oh well, it just went over your head. No, I got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just
Let
sucked.
me jump in here because we probably want to wrap this up pretty soon. But I want to say that I did like the movie this time. I actually turned around on it completely. And
Oh, really?
Wait,
Yeah.
what?
yeah,
Well,
in
because
fact,
now it's a prequel to Helldivers 2.
it's
so.
a prequel to
Oh, I
Helldivers.
see.
No, but the funny thing about it, to me anyway, is Helldivers 2 to me is sort of the perfect distillation of the humor, of the over the topness of this propaganda. Like, the lines that are in Helldivers 2 are just so militaristic and over the top, to it's taken to a ridiculous point, like where it is obviously humor. In Starship Troopers, it never gets to that point. It never quite achieves that. But to me, having played a lot of Helldivers 2 and heard a lot of this stuff and watched the marketing of it, and I've enjoyed that because to me, it is bringing out that humor. And so now watching Starship Troopers with that kind of in my mind, I now see the propaganda films that are in Starship Troopers as being funny and as being over the top. But to me, without the framing of Helldivers 2, I wouldn't have seen it. I don't think I don't think I would
That's
enjoy
why-
it.
It is absolutely wild to me. I mean, I'm glad you enjoyed it more this time.
I did, but
But-
I also think the acting is bad, and I'm not
Yeah, it
even
did it
sure
no
the
favors.
actors here are in on the joke. Like, if there
Yeah.
was,
No, I don't think they are.
if this
And
is
I
a,
think
we're
that was
making a
probably
satire,
intentional.
And you
Casper
know what?
Van Dien thought
yeah.
he was very headstrong in thinking he was making a war movie.
I think Phil's right. Like, your guess is correct. I don't think the actors were in on it, and I think
No.
to a degree that was intentional. I think it was a poor choice.
I think
Also, they picked bad actors.
Well, I
Michael
mean,
Ironside is in on it.
Sure,
I think
Potentially.
Clancy
He's all-
Brown is in on it.
Oh,
Michael
yeah.
Ironside's also playing the character he plays every time.
Oh yeah.
Every single
So I
time.
mean, he's playing Michael Ironside, which is fine.
Yeah.
I love Michael Ironside. He's great.
Yeah.
That is who I expect him to be when I see him in
Yeah.
a movie, and he played himself wonderfully. But I think, yeah, like, and I know that again, I don't think the cast was chosen based on the fact that they couldn't act. From reading some interviews, they were chosen because he wanted to go for an Aryan look.
Yeah.
Which, in hindsight now, I get that. Unfortunately, they cast a bunch of people who couldn't act,
Yeah.
or at least at that point, they were they were just, and especially, well, Casper Van Dien, Dina Meyer, and Denise Richards were all just awful. They were just awful
Yes.
in the movie. Jake Busey was to a point, but he was also chewing up the scenery a little bit.
I mean,
You know what I
Jake
mean? Like,
Busey.
he was doing his
How he
thing,
works.
He
and it
chews
worked.
up the scenery.
Right?
Yeah,
Michael
it's great.
Ironside, Clancy Brown as well, was playing Clancy Brown. That's fine.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
I
But
forgot Hank was in it.
the three main
Dean
Hank?
Norris.
Huh?
Is that Dean Norris?
What's his name?
Commanding
The guy who
officer?
played Hank on Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
Well, I never
Yeah.
saw Breaking Bad.
You haven't seen Breaking Bad?
No.
Oh goodness.
I had forgotten that he was in this too.
You
But
should watch
anyway,
Breaking
I mean,
Bad.
you take Neil Patrick Harris out of it too,
Watch it with
because
your
he
kids.
doesn't spend a lot of time in the movie. The three main characters are so hard to watch, and they have
They're
and
unlikable.
they have no chemistry at all.
No.
The
No.
only way that works is for the first part of the movie when Dizzy is throwing herself at Rico.
Yeah.
Yeah.
the lack of chemistry works because he doesn't show interest, right?
Yeah.
But even then, when they get together, they don't have any chemistry. And
No.
her death scene is so hard to watch for all the wrong reasons. It's just like,
Yeah.
my God. And even that, I think if they managed to find 3 actors who could pull it off,
Yeah.
it would have made it a better film. I would have been okay. I mean, I'll sit and watch Rambo and Commando and Predator and all that stuff. And they don't have any major messages to deal with either. And I don't care because they're fun to watch.
Yeah.
I find Starship Troopers just isn't even fun to watch.
Oh,
That's
And really, there's only one battle scene here that is fun to watch, in my opinion, and it's the one where Rico rides on top of that bug and throws the grenade.
I remember cringing when I was watching that.
The rest of it to me isn't really that interesting. It's just they get overrun with bugs, and that's the end of it, really. And once the Roughnecks come out, it's so funny. Like the one battle that they lost, yeah, they were overrun. When the Roughnecks come back, they're only fighting like a half dozen bugs. So it's not nearly as exciting, and there's really nothing happening there. Anyway, I didn't think the action parts was that great either. But I enjoyed the movie.
I still thought the special effects were great. For 1997, I thought the bugs looked fantastic.
yeah.
Yeah,
It still
you're
looks
right.
good.
They do,
And they've actually aged pretty well.
What's crazy is that
shockingly
the couple special effects that I thought didn't age gracefully were
ones.
What's that?
Are the practical ones?
Well, just some of the like explosion effects where you could tell that it kind of green screened in.
Yeah.
Like those didn't look that good, but yeah, the bugs still all look really good.
Mostly looks great.
Yeah. Special effects definitely hold up.
It sounds like I didn't like the movie a second time, but I did. I was entertained by it, and that also comes down to Helldivers 2, which
I still love
by
it.
the way, let me just say, Helldivers 2 is so over the top in its depiction of propaganda and fascism, but you go on the subreddit for that game, or you go into any discussion of that game, and there are people who that just flies right over their head.
Of course.
They are
I mean, it's
not
the
even
internet in
thinking
2024.
about that whatsoever, even though it is for sure played for humor, for
One of the things that I think, again, was kind of missed out on, and this was also intentional. I do know that, because again, Verhoeven said that he wanted to, and I didn't know this at the time, but reading it now, that he wanted to cast people based on sort of an Aryan look. He wanted them young and white and beautiful, basically. But I mean, one of the things from the book was that I think the fact that Rico is actually not white in the book is kind of a big reveal at the end of the book. Like, you go through not knowing that, right? So the fact that they cast Casper Van Dien in that role kind of killed that element of it as well. But I will say that the other thing that it ended up doing, and this is probably not something that bothers you guys as much as it bothers me, and I dare say a lot of other people in the world, is because of the way that they were cast, this movie very much falls in the whole America Saves the Day trope, which we'd also just gone through with ID4 at the time.
Yep.
And I know I'm probably not the same as everyone. I'm sure everyone doesn't have a low tolerance for that, but I know, especially in the late 90s, ID4 was the main offender I can think of, but I was just kind of so over that at that point, where it's like, I really don't want to go watch another movie where America saves the world or the universe, and it's not necessarily called out in the film at all, but because of the casting, that's how it feels. That's how it felt when I watched it. So that's kind of another element that I think I really turned me off from the film when the first time I saw it. Watching it again, trying to go in with an open mind, and going in now in hindsight, reading all the interviews over the years and all the arguments for what this movie is trying to say, I do see it, but I still don't think it's a very good movie.
I think it would be very interesting to see a remake of this movie and what direction it would be taken without Verhoeven.
Yeah, me too. I think there could be something really, really good there.
I think there is a message here. I think there is something that could be conveyed to the audience more than it is. And I know that's probably not what Phil wants to hear because he thinks
It's a great movie.
But
An incredible movie.
I think especially now when we're living in a time where fascism seems to be, dare I say, on the rise, and people aren't as vigilant as they should be in tamping it down, like those kids who stomped those bugs. Like I feel like
I mean, those kids are being trained.
I was going to say that
into
you did not
fascism,
get
right?
the message in that.
You
kid
understand
stomping
that's
bugs
the
thing.
message of that scene, yes?
Yeah.
I do understand that. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
But yeah, I think it could be interesting to see what a remake of that could look like.
Speaking of,
You think those were real bugs, by the way?
Yeah, I think they were.
Was there
I don't know. They make
ethically
cockroaches that big.
treated animals thing message at the end?
I don't
in the
know. I
credits?
think
it
they
might have been a little
probably
early
had.
for that.
I think they probably had stunt roaches filled with goo.
Could
I don't
be.
They
think
probably did.
I don't think in '97 you could get away with legitimate killing animals on screen.
I don't think so. No.
Yeah.
I'd
Speaking
have to
of
look at the credits though to see if any
excellent-
animals were harmed in the filming.
yeah. Speaking of excellent science fiction movies that you guys don't appreciate, I watched Dune again the other night.
The new one?
The old one or the new one?
The new one in preparation for Dune 2.
I haven't seen any of the Dune.
My crew went and watched Dune 2 this morning and I wasn't invited.
Good.
Oh,
You don't
really?
deserve to be.
I didn't want to be.
Good.
I slept in. It was either sleep in the theater or sleep in my bed, and I chose my bed.
Wow.
I think this was
I
the
would like
third,
to see it.
I think this was the third time I've seen the new Dune, and it still wows me every time.
It's a very pretty movie.
It is. I love it. Absolutely love it. And I'm stoked to see the new one. So
It's getting a lot of positive reviews.
I know.
Yeah.
So, well, there we go.
All right, we did it.
Nothing changed. CJ likes it a little more this time.
I do like it a little more. Thank you, Helga.
But only
And we
because he
learned, and
played
I
a
learned
game
that I
that-
was right all the time.
Only because he played a game that kind of rips it off.
I love that. That's the reason you like it a little more.
Of course
I
it
just
is.
love it. Has
course
nothing
it
to
is.
do with the movie. It has everything to do with the game you're playing right
Yeah.
now, and that's
Correct.
fine. That's awesome.
Oh
Correct,
boy.
'cause it has reframed the film for me.
There you go.
Who
I-
knew?
I
Back in
wish-
1997, Paul Verhoeven
Helldivers
was just
correcting
basically
Verhoeven's
creating a
mistakes.
Helldivers. Yeah.
I wish the people who wrote the dialogue in Helldivers 2 could do a remake of Starship Troopers and make it
Oh
a
my
film.
goodness.
I think Casper Van Dien actually reached out to the studio head at Arrowhead for exactly that kind of thing. But
You know how angry Verhoeven would be if you were to go up to him and say, "Your movie would be a lot better if the dialogue was more like a video game." I can,
Hey, man, the
I can
truth
only
hurts.
imagine that he wouldn't stop punching you.
Again, more misses than hits.
Oh
more
my
misses
gosh.
than hits.
All
Yeah,
I'm saying.
I
But
hated
those
Hollow Man.
hits,
Hollow
Oh,
Man,
the
one
hits.
of the
Listen, the hits
the
were
hits
great.
films
hit.
I've seen.
I get wanting to like Verhoeven films because I loved RoboCop.
yeah.
I saw Showgirls in the theater.
Me too.
Well, that was your mistake.
Yeah.
I loved RoboCop. I loved Total Recall. I wanted
Yeah.
to like Verhoeven movies. I have not seen another Verhoeven movie. I haven't seen all, but I've not seen another one that I liked.
No one said you have to like all
Me
of them.
neither.
No one said they're all good.
Yeah.
No director makes
But I'm
all
saying
good
there's
movies.
there's more bad than good, is what I'm saying in his
Well, you know.
in his library.
That's going to happen, but the ones that are good are good.
All righty. Well, hey, thank you, supporters, for enduring this episode of the After Show.
Now let's never speak of it again.
Let's never speak of it again.
So
If
who's
you-
right here, everyone? Head to our
It was-
Discord. Tell us who's
Yeah.
right.
Let's
Yeah,
hear a
who's
bunch of
right?
people. Yeah, that should be. Yeah.
Yeah, go
That'd
to
be
our
good.
Discord. We have a patrons hangout channel. Go in there. Tell us who you thought was right, or you can just say it in the player one channel.
Or
too.
who's the most handsome? You can tell us that too.
That's right. You can.
The answer is none of us.
The answer
We are all equally hideous.
is none.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, thank you very much, Patreon supporters, for supporting the show. You make all of this fun stuff possible. And if you have an idea for a quiz or perhaps a topic that you'd like us to tackle during an after show like this, you can email that to player1podcast@gmail.com. We'll play your game on the show. Maybe we'll tackle a topic or two as well.
Or send in some topic ideas.
Or send in
Let's-
some topic ideas. Yeah.
Let's
you could do-
debate
you
the
could do that.
1993 Super Mario movie.
We could do that.
It's brilliant.
You're gonna make me go watch that now too.
I think
I
the
did-
first time
hey-
I saw that was when we were roommates, Phil.
What's
I
that?
did not see it in 1993.
Oh,
I did
really?
not see it until it came out on DVD, I think, or maybe.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I had not seen it when it was originally out. But anyway,
You know,
listeners,
speaking of 4K Blu-rays,
there's one of those. Yeah.
I recently got the Super Mario Brothers movie
Oh yeah.
imported from Australia in
Ooh,
4K.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, listeners, reach out. Tell us what you thought and what your ideas are for more episodes like this. And we'll probably pick another year to discuss like we did last month and do one of these after shows on that too soon. But I hope everybody out there in Radio Land is safe and well. Hope your family, friends, loved ones are safe and well as well. And we will talk at you again next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.